Hey everyone, welcome back to Reliable Prepper. I'm glad you're tuning in today. We're going to tackle a topic that's often overlooked in prepping discussions, but is absolutely vital when it comes to surviving a collapse. Dealing with mentally ill individuals and addicts in an SHTF scenario. You've probably thought about the usual threats, natural disasters, food shortages, and even potential violence from looters or hostile groups. But here's something you might not have considered. The risks posed by people who are already struggling with mental health issues or addiction. Without access to the usual medications or support systems, their behavior can quickly spiral out of control, becoming one of the most unpredictable and dangerous challenges you'll face. As their mental state deteriorates and desperation sets in, these individuals can put your entire group at risk. So it's crucial to understand the potential dangers they pose and how to effectively manage those threats to ensure your group's survival. In this video, we'll break down the specific risks of dealing with mentally ill individuals and addicts, ranging from unpredictable behavior and violence to the strain they can place on your group. I'll also provide practical strategies for protecting yourself and your group, as well as how to make the tough decisions that come with these high-stakes situations. So, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook for more survival tips. Trust me, it'll be an essential resource. Let's dive in. All right, let's set the stage here. When we think about survival scenarios, most of us immediately jump to things like food storage, water purification, and weaponry. But one of the most important and often overlooked aspects of survival is how to deal with people, particularly people who are mentally unstable or addicted. In a situation where society collapses, people with mental health issues or addiction problems are even more vulnerable. Healthcare and social services that usually help manage these problems will no longer exist. And without access to treatment or medication, these individuals may spiral out of control. Whether you're dealing with someone in your group or an outsider, the reality is that these individuals become increasingly dangerous when society breaks down. Without the right tools or support, their behavior can become erratic, unpredictable, and even violent, putting everyone around them at serious risk. So, it's critical to understand that mental illness and addiction are not just personal struggles, they can become survival threats. Whether they're driven by psychosis or substance withdrawal, their actions can directly impact your resources, your safety, and your group dynamics. And the risks aren't just limited to the group itself. These individuals can also expose you to external threats, especially if they attract unwanted attention from hostile outsiders or looters who see their vulnerability as an opportunity to exploit. Let's break this down more specifically, starting with the behavioral unpredictability that mentally ill individuals and addicts bring to the table. One of the largest dangers posed by mentally ill individuals and addicts in an SHTF scenario is their unpredictability. Under normal circumstances, someone with a mental health issue or addiction may be manageable, especially if they have access to treatment or medication. But when the systems that regulate healthcare and medication break down, like they will during a societal collapse, people's behaviors will escalate quickly. Addicts and mentally ill individuals are often pushed to the edge in survival scenarios. If they don't have access to their usual medications or substances, they will experience withdrawal. If they suffer from mental health issues, the lack of treatment will make their symptoms worse. In either case, you'll be dealing with increased aggression, paranoia, confusion, and in extreme cases, violence. It's not just that they can't control their actions. It's that their mental state deteriorates quickly when put under pressure. Let's take a closer look at how these behaviors manifest. When dealing with mentally ill individuals, you might encounter delusional episodes where they start perceiving things that aren't there. For example, someone with paranoid schizophrenia might believe that the rest of the group is plotting against them. Their fear and anxiety can trigger a violent reaction, especially if they feel threatened. If you don't know how to handle that situation calmly, you might find yourself facing an individual who lashes out in defense of what they believe to be true. Addicts in withdrawal present an entirely different but equally dangerous issue. Withdrawal symptoms are intense, both physically and emotionally. A person going through opioid withdrawal might be shaking, sweating, and experiencing severe cramps. These physical symptoms are extremely uncomfortable and can make them agitated and angry. On top of that, their emotional state is all over the place. An addict who's been cut off from their supply may start acting out aggressively, even if they're not normally a violent person. Their mind is in a state of constant craving, and that can make them act irrationally. Addicts will do whatever it takes to get their fix. They'll steal, manipulate, or even threaten others in the group. The desperation for their substance creates a dangerous and uncontrollable individual who's more likely to harm the people around them than help them. This makes interpersonal conflict. Addicts in withdrawal are especially dangerous when their supply is cut off in an SHTF scenario. Their desperate need for a fix leads them to become obsessed with securing more of the substance they're craving. Whether it's alcohol, opioids, or stimulants, the withdrawal symptoms can lead to extreme physical and emotional distress. The moment they start experiencing these symptoms, their behavior can spiral out of control. First, let's talk about violence. This is one of the most common dangers with addicts in withdrawal. When an addict is going through physical withdrawal, they're likely to experience a combination of anxiety, irritability, and intense cravings. And when someone is in that state, they might lash out at anyone who stands between them and the relief they're desperately seeking. If an addict sees that you have something they need, whether it's food, water, or a substance they're craving, they could turn violent in a split second. Consider this scenario. You're in a tight situation with limited resources, and someone in your group is going through withdrawal. Their mood swings and frustration are building up, and all it takes is a minor conflict over supplies to trigger an outburst. They might threaten you or someone else in the group, all because of their desperation. In a survival situation, this is incredibly dangerous. Not only does it put the group at risk physically, but it also fractures the trust within the group. People might start to feel paranoid or worried that the addict could escalate the situation to the point of violence. Now let's talk about the resource drain addicts bring with them. Addiction isn't just a mental and emotional issue, it's a resource issue. Addicts need a constant supply of their substance of choice, and when they're cut off from it, they may start looking for ways to obtain it from others. If they're desperate enough, they might attempt to steal from group members, putting the entire group at risk. And it's not just physical resources they'll drain, it's emotional energy too. Managing someone in withdrawal is incredibly exhausting. It requires constant attention and can quickly drain you and your group's mental and emotional resources. Now that we've covered some of the risks on a behavioral and physical level, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the psychological and social strain that mentally ill individuals and addicts impose on non-ill individuals. In an SHTF situation, where tensions are already high, the emotional and psychological toll can be overwhelming. Dealing with someone who is mentally unstable or addicted adds a layer of stress that can seriously undermine the cohesion and morale of your group. Let's face it, surviving in an SHTF scenario is tough enough without the added stress of managing people who aren't contributing, or worse yet, are actively putting the group at risk. Mentally ill individuals and addicts can weaken the group dynamic, especially if they are unable to manage their behavior. If you've got someone who is constantly acting out or causing emotional turmoil, it can lead to frustration, resentment, and ultimately a breakdown in group unity. And when people are stressed out or emotionally drained, the focus on survival diminishes, and you might find yourselves making decisions based on emotion rather than rationality. Another factor that contributes to this strain is the constant need for attention and care. It's not just about keeping a mentally unstable person from spiraling into violence. It's about dealing with the emotional fallout of their behavior. Imagine you have to constantly calm someone down because they're experiencing a delusional episode or an anxiety attack. Maybe they've gone off their medication and become paranoid. Or an addict is so desperate for a fix that they're becoming more manipulative by the hour. These issues can drain the mental and emotional energy of the group. And that's a problem, especially when survival needs are already demanding so much of your time and focus. You can't just brush aside the emotional toll that managing these individuals takes on the rest of the group. It's not just about their behavior. It's also about the strain they put on everyone else. Over time, the group members who are not suffering from these issues can begin to feel resentful or overwhelmed. And when that happens, group cohesion starts to erode. People stop trusting each other, and alliances start to fracture, especially if certain members of the group feel they're carrying the weight of someone else's problems. Lack of trust is one of the most dangerous risks in any survival scenario, and it's one of the easiest things to lose. Let's now address security risks, a significant concern when dealing with mentally ill individuals or addicts in a survival setting. Your safety depends on your ability to secure your shelter, manage your resources, and maintain vigilance in high-stress situations. However, when mentally unstable or addicted individuals are added to the mix, securing your group becomes much more complicated. You can have the best perimeter defenses and the most advanced security systems, but if one person in your group is unable to keep their composure or forgets basic security protocols, your entire group could be exposed. Consider a scenario where an individual suffering from schizophrenia or bipolar disorder forgets to lock the doors or windows after a long, exhausting day. Or an addict in the throes of withdrawal fails to maintain watch during the night. Maybe they wander out of the shelter, inadvertently drawing attention to your location or letting in a hostile group. These situations happen more often than you think, especially in high-pressure environments. And the worst part? These people don't even realize the risk they're creating because their mental state prevents them from thinking clearly. It's not just about forgetfulness. Mental illness and addiction impair decision-making abilities. Someone who's struggling with a mental health issue or addiction may ignore the most basic security measures like closing doors or staying alert. They could inadvertently compromise the group's safety, leaving everyone exposed to external threats. Whether it's a raid from looters or a hostile group looking for vulnerable targets, someone who can't focus on the immediate danger makes everyone a target. Now, let's dive deeper into the external risks mentally ill individuals and addicts present, particularly when their vulnerability makes them easy targets for exploitation by outsiders. In any survival scenario, the need to stay hidden and keep a low profile is paramount. But mentally ill individuals or addicts may not be able to recognize the importance of this. Their desperation or distorted perceptions can lead them to act in ways that expose your group to danger, especially if they inadvertently attract outsiders or hostile groups. A mentally unstable person, for example, may trust a stranger who approaches your shelter, thinking they're there to help, but in reality, they're bringing a threat to your door. An addict may trade vital supplies, like water, food, or medicine, in exchange for something that helps them ease their withdrawal symptoms. They may even give away valuable information about your location or plans, unknowingly leading dangerous individuals straight to you. Let's say an addict from your group starts bartering supplies with an outsider they've encountered. The addict might not see the potential danger in dealing with someone they're desperate to impress or feed their cravings. But the outsider could very well be a looter or part of a hostile group who sees your shelter as an opportunity to gain access to resources. Now, you've just exposed the group to a dangerous external threat, all because someone couldn't think clearly in their moment of desperation. This type of interaction makes it easier for hostile groups to infiltrate your group or attack your shelter. Even if the interaction isn't immediately hostile, the vulnerability of the mentally ill or addicted individual can still lead to harmful outcomes. Their inability to recognize a dangerous situation puts everyone at risk. A mentally unstable person might also wander into a dangerous area, not realizing the threat they're walking into, and inadvertently draw attention to the group. One of the hardest aspects of dealing with mentally ill individuals and addicts in an SHTF scenario is the moral dilemma it creates. As humans, we're naturally inclined to help others, especially those who are suffering. But survival is about prioritizing resources and ensuring the safety of the group. At some point, you're going to have to ask yourself, do we continue to support someone who can't contribute? How much compassion can we afford to extend when our survival is at risk? This is the heart of the ethical struggle you'll face. Do you help someone who can't pull their weight, who might drain your resources and increase the chances of harm? Or do you make the tough decision to protect your resources and your group's survival? This is not just about making practical decisions. It's about maintaining a moral compass while making decisions that could very well affect lives. The truth is, you will face moments where your empathy for others will conflict with your drive to survive. You'll be forced to ask yourself, at what point does compassion become dangerous? When do I draw the line? The tension between compassion and pragmatism is real, and difficult choices need to be made. And the fact is, in an SHTF situation, survival has to come first. The longer you delay these tough decisions, the more vulnerable your entire group becomes. Now, let's get into some practical strategies for managing the risks that mentally ill individuals and addicts bring to an SHTF scenario. While it's impossible to completely eliminate the risk, there are steps you can take to mitigate it and ensure your group stays safe. One of the first steps is to set boundaries from the start. If you have mentally ill individuals or addicts in your group, it's crucial to establish clear expectations for behavior. This means setting rules around behavior, security, and responsibility. These rules will help ensure everyone in the group understands the risks involved and the importance of following protocols to keep the group safe. It's also important to set boundaries when it comes to resource allocation. Do not allow someone's personal issues to drain your limited resources. Setting clear expectations also means that everyone in the group should understand that if someone's behavior becomes a serious risk, there will be consequences. If someone can't pull their weight or compromises the group's safety, they need to know the group will take action to ensure survival. Another strategy is to create a support system for individuals struggling with mental illness or addiction. This might include assigning someone who can act as a monitor or caregiver to ensure the individual gets the help they need. For addicts, you might need to keep extra supplies or medications that can help them cope with withdrawal. But remember, these support systems should not be burdens on the group. If someone is not actively contributing to the group's survival efforts, then they should not be prioritized over those who are. You can help them, but it's important to keep the balance between compassion and practicality in mind. A person in withdrawal or having a mental health crisis should not be the center of attention if it means compromising the safety of the whole group. Additionally, these support systems should be short-term solutions. In a survival scenario, you can't afford to have long-term care demands placed on the group. Limited resources mean that you must strike a balance between helping individuals who are struggling and maintaining the group's strength. Assigning someone to help care for the mentally ill or addicted individuals is a temporary fix, but you need to ensure they're not draining vital resources or creating more risks for the group over time. Perhaps the most important strategy for managing the risks posed by mentally ill individuals and addicts is to create a strong group culture built on clear communication, trust, and shared responsibility. If the group isn't cohesive, any weak link in the chain, whether it's a mentally ill person or someone struggling with addiction, can cause major breakdowns in group morale and group unity. From the moment you form a group, it's crucial to establish clear roles for everyone, mentally ill individuals included. Set expectations for who is responsible for what tasks, and make sure everyone understands their role in survival. Mentally ill individuals or addicts should not be isolated or left to make decisions for the group. They should have manageable tasks that don't involve critical decisions like guarding the perimeter or dealing with high-risk situations. They can contribute, but their role should be limited to things that do not put the group in danger. Further, make sure that open communication is part of your group's culture. If someone is struggling, whether mentally or physically, there needs to be an open space for dialogue. If someone in the group is acting erratic or behaving in a way that compromises the group's security or safety, they should feel comfortable enough to raise the alarm. It's also important that there's a mutual respect among the group members, especially when managing the emotionally taxing burden of mentally unstable individuals. Everyone should feel they are being treated fairly and that they are part of a strong, cohesive unit. Now, let's discuss the difficult decision that you will almost certainly face: when to cut ties with a mentally ill individual or addict who is no longer contributing to the group or who poses a direct threat to the group's survival. These are the most difficult calls you'll have to make, but they're necessary in a survival scenario. As compassionate as we may feel, emotions cannot guide survival decisions. You will have to ask yourself hard questions. Is this person a liability? Are they too far gone to be a productive part of the group? Are they endangering the group's chances of survival? And these questions apply to anyone in the group, not just the mentally ill or addicted individuals. If someone's actions are constantly draining resources, putting the group in danger, or fracturing group trust, they must be removed from the equation. This isn't about being callous or uncaring. It's about the harsh reality of survival. If keeping a certain individual alive means sacrificing the rest of the group, you must make the difficult decision: to cut ties. This could involve moving them to a separate location to keep them away from the core group or, in extreme cases, making a tough decision about their ability to remain with the group. Understand that these situations will test your morals, but ultimately, group survival must come first. So, let's wrap this up. The truth is, dealing with mentally ill individuals and addicts in an SHTF scenario is not an easy task. These individuals pose unique risks to your safety, security, and overall survival strategy, and as much as you might want to help, you must make tough choices to ensure your own survival. In the end, survival is about prioritizing what's best for the group. You will need to balance compassion with pragmatism, and that's something that can't be ignored when your very life and the lives of your group members are on the line. Understanding the risks is just the first step. The real challenge lies in managing those risks through clear boundaries, careful decision-making, and creating a strong, unified group culture. But above all, remember that the goal of survival is to keep your group strong, safe, and capable of making it through any situation. If that means making hard decisions, then that's what you'll have to do. No one said surviving the collapse would be easy, but with the right mindset, you can handle these challenges. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook for more tips on how to thrive during the collapse. And if you haven't already, don't forget to check out the link in the description to sign up for my bi-weekly newsletter and get my free ebook, Surviving Civil Unrest, A Complete Guide. It's packed with practical advice that will help you stay ahead when everything goes sideways. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay prepared, and stay strong. I'll see you in the next one.